Now, Iraq's President Jalal Talabani has said the country's vice president will only stand trial if promises are made of its fairness. The case is threatening to split Iraqi politics. Authorities have issued an arrest warrant for Tariq al-Hashemi for allegedly planning an attack against Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, where he's suspected of helping to organize a December the 2nd car bombing inside Baghdad's Green Zone, where parliament and other government and diplomatic buildings are located. Hashemi denies the charges, saying they are politically motivated. The vice president has moved to the Kurdish region of northern Iraq, out of reach of the prosecutors in Baghdad. Well, let's talk live now to Tariq al-Hashemi, who joins me from Sulaymaniyah, that's in northern Iraq. Mr. al-Hashemi, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Let me start first by asking you, or just saying, an arrest warrant has now been issued for you on terror charges for this alleged attack against Prime Minister Maliki. You're now a wanted man in Iraq. If you say you're innocent, why don't you stand before a court in Baghdad and prove that innocence?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity given to myself. Anyway, I just would like, in fact, to correct your knowledge and the way that you introduced the case. I didn't fly from Baghdad to Sulaymaniyah just to be outside the jurisdiction of judicial system of Iraq. All what happened 3 days ago, in fact, I was complying with the requests issued by the president himself. It was an invitation for me and my colleague, Dr. Khudayr Khuzai, to attend an urgent meeting in Sulaymaniyah. Therefore, we both flew from Baghdad airport to Sulaymaniyah. I am ready anytime, as I said, in fact, to present myself, in fact, to Iraqi court, provided that the minimum requirement of justice is available. I do have a great doubt about the transparency and the credibility of the judicial system in Baghdad. Why? Because the security forces, al-Maliki himself, the government, who those opponent to Tariq al-Hashemi and al-Iraqi, they are in fact kidnapping the independence of the Iraqi judicial system in Baghdad. Therefore, I said I'm ready to present myself to a better available and the nearest available court, which is in Kurdistan, which I think the criteria of justice will be much better.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a second, Mr. Hashemi. Let me ask you, you say that Iraq's government is behind Thursday's car bombing that killed 70 people or thereabouts in Baghdad. You accuse Prime Minister al-Maliki of causing sectarian violence and targeting Sunnis. What evidence do you have to substantiate that claim, and why would Iraq's Prime Minister be targeting Sunnis at this time?
Well, first of all, in fact, it's not only me. In fact, if you just if you revise the press conference that, the meeting with the Salahuddin tribes today of al-Maliki, he was bluntly accusing 4 officers within his security apparatus behind the car bombs and behind the explosives which happened 2 days ago. He just repeated and confirmed all my assumptions. I am an ex-army officer. I think nobody else except who act as a part of the government could manage, in fact, to plant all these explosives and car bombs without deterrence, without stopping the checkpoints. Those who plant all those explosives must have some sort of green light and badges and good connection to the checkpoints. And even the size of explosives, in fact, is reflect that this is well organized, which is, to the best of my knowledge, is well beyond any organized crime capacity to do it. And today, al-Maliki himself confirmed that. This is just part of the story.
Let me ask you, Mr. Hashemi, let me just come in here because time is limited. I want to ask you about the wider public perception of you, because there have been angry demonstrations against you in Hilla, for example. Hundreds of people have turned out saying you should stand trial. How worried are you about that kind of sentiment where angry people are coming out on the streets of Iraq saying you should stand trial?
Well, what about the demonstrations in Anbar and demonstrations in Salah ad-Din and demonstrations in Diyala, demonstration in other areas? Why you just excluded all those demonstrations, in fact, and the motion of the emotion of those people which fully supportive Mr. Al-Hashemi? No, I'm not worried about that. People would exercise their freedom to whether they are convinced about these allegations presented by Al-Maliki and fabricated, or whether they are supporting Tariq Al-Hashemi. We are in a democratic society, democratic style of a country, a state. Therefore, I am respecting both, supporting Tariq Al-Hashemi and opposing Tariq Al-Hashemi. But at the end of the day, the Iraqi court should say whether Al-Hashemi is guilty or innocent.
Okay,
and you
all
will
right.
see.
Well, let me just come back to the issue. Let me just come back to the issue. Let me come back to the issue, Mr. Hashemi, of the trial, because the Iraqi president, right, Jalal Talabani, he's actually come out and said, look, you should only stand trial if the process is fair. Now, if you get those assurances from Mr. Talabani himself, would you turn yourself in? Would you stand trial in Baghdad to prove your innocence?
No, for me, Baghdad, for the time being, for the environment to prevail in Baghdad, for me, is a red line. I'm not going to pass it. And the president, which I'm appreciating his stance and support which he rendered so far, he is very much convinced about my theme.
So are you happy to remain a fugitive in northern Iraq, which is what you are now?
Well, I am here as a vice president, and I am here, in fact, I moved from Baghdad to Soleimani according to administrative order issued by the president on the 17th of December. So I am here acting and performing my duties as normal. And when Al-Maliki released my office and retain my bodyguards and retain all the armament and the circumstances return back as used to be in the past, I'll be ready next day, in fact, to move back to Baghdad, inshallah, after I conclude the court case properly in Kurdistan.
Let me ask you a final question, Mr. Hashemi, because there are real worries now that this crisis between you and the Prime Minister could spark and renew sectarian violence in Iraq. Let me put a final question to you. President Barack Obama said America left Iraq a stable, democratic and self-reliant country. Do you agree with that assessment? Or could we now see the country descend into chaos and more sectarian violence just because the politicians can't get their act together and just because you have a political feud with Nouri al-Maliki?
Well, I'm sorry, in fact, I feel really sympathetic to Mr. Obama about the statement that he made side by side al-Maliki during his recent visit to Washington. I really feel very sympathetic about Mr. Obama that al-Maliki put him in a very critical and awkward situation. Al-Maliki deliberately tries his best, in fact, in aborting all the themes that has been presented in the speech of Obama. So I'm really sympathetic about President Obama and the way al-Maliki let him down because what he has done after the last soldier of America left Iraq.
Okay, but just quickly, just that question I asked you, are you worried about the sectarian violence which is flaring up now, Sunni against Shia?
I am very much concerned about the future of my country. I think we reach a turning point. Either we establish a real democratic and real of state country, or we move back and restore the autocratic regime which we tried our best since 2003, in fact, to make a real change.
All right. Tariq al-Hashemi, Iraqi Vice President, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.